Right. So, very warm welcome to all you wonderful educators out there watching from Universal Mentors Association live channels on YouTube, LinkedIn, as well as Facebook. We're going live today for the fourth series of Talking Education, the TalkEd series, where we talk simultaneously about various education topics uh, across the sectors. Currently, we are focusing on skills in this amazing series that we'll have more than 5 episodes to be shot, bringing live to you on all of these platforms. Uh, Without further ado, let me quickly introduce this amazing panel. But do not forget the presenter of this amazing series for the fourth Talking Education is BrightChamps, doing some amazing work with skill education out there. Introducing our amazing panel, Dr. Neeta Bali, who's the director of Jaipuria Group of Schools, Ghaziabad, one of the most renowned personalities in the education today. Dr. Sarada Chandrasekaran, academic director of Whitefield Global School, Bangalore. She'll also be joined very shortly. Dr. Vasa Siva Prakash, who's the principal of Shree Swaminarayan Gurukul International School from Ahmedabad. Uh, we'll have Dr. Archana Choudhary, Principal Wisdom International School, Ghaziabad. She's already here. Welcome, ma'am. Thank you so much. She's from Ghaziabad. We
Thank you
have with
so
us
much, sir.
Ms. Sarah Huck, who's the principal of the Princeton School, Bangalore, one of the most renowned schools of Bangalore is here.
Thank you
So,
so much.
and definitely last but not the least, Ms. Doshi, who's the innovation analyst of BrightChamps, all the way from Hyderabad. So we have North India and South India all packed into one power pack session. Without further ado, the educators are all out here. It's better that the educator talks about the education. So, welcoming Dr. Miss Disha Doshi to take this amazing panel away. I know you're one of the most amazing moderators out there today as well. Thank you so much, and I'll join you towards the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandeep.
Thank you.
And thank you all. A very warm welcome to our panelists and our audience who's joined us live through the different platforms that we have. Thank you for joining us today, and I'm sure we will make this discussion as insightful and as candid as possible. A gentle reminder, if you have any questions, please do drop it in our chat box, and we'll be able to take some questions towards the end. Right, so let's begin with the session. Recently, I read somewhere that innovation is the change that unlocks new value and is at the core of the 21st century. Every day, we are seeing innovative ideas shatter conventions. So, Dr. Neeta Bali, how can schools and educators foster a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship among students today?
Ma'am, please unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
My apologies. Did not realize I was on mute.
It's
So,
okay.
thank you Chandra, for letting me know. Um, First, I must say this is a beautiful question, very close to my heart, because as an educator, as I have evolved over the years, I have personally evolved over the years to realize that we don't have to teach our children to be serving others. When I say serving, what I'm trying to say is to be working for others. I think we need to make them into people who can generate employment rather than seek employment. Now, when we say that we have to groom the young to generate employment, obviously what we are saying is that we need to also prepare them to be able to generate employment for others rather than seeking out employment, and of course contributing very effectively to the country's economy or to the world economy. So I think as schools, it is very important that we promote the spirit of entrepreneurship in the schools, and you can do it in very small ways. Let us just take an example of any task which is to be given to the children. Let them often, let me give a very concrete example of what I did as a school head. So as a school head, when we wanted to start the MUN conference for the first time, we wanted to host one. My first retort to the children when they approached me was that I or the manager will not be providing you funds for this event. So what do you plan to do? Now that's a challenge. When you throw a challenge at the children, so first thing first, they sat me down and they said, good enough. Are you okay if we get the funds? So I said, great. Can we generate funds? Yes, we can. So I said, let us first conceptualize what this event is going to look like. Let's plan. Let's also work on a budget to see what kind of a what kind of a projected budget do you have in mind? What does this require? And how are you going to be able to get that kind of finance? Who will finance this venture of yours? How will you go about it? And how do you mean to put it to good use? So when children started to think, I think that's when I realized, that in fact, our children, I would say, are a huge reservoir of ideas. So, I mean, we imagine that we can think better than them. We can't. They are a huge reservoir of ideas. So I was very pleasantly surprised, when they put before me a blueprint of an event where they became ambitious. I'd say almost over ambitious because they said we'd like to bring they said we'd like to bring 7 directors from overseas. So that left me very flummoxed. So I said, okay, so 4 directors from overseas. So the air tickets, we'll get it sponsored. Stay, we'll have it sponsored. Meals and everything, travel, we get it sponsored. Super. So I said, who are you approaching for sponsorship? Believe you me, I mean, it was mind blowing to see the kids go out and approach people and sell their idea and get sponsorships. 80% of that project was sponsored by people outside. Only 20% I did because I couldn't let them down. I wanted to do I wanted them to do it 100%, but I said, nevertheless, we'll support you. So here, when we allow people, young people, to take risks, and not just that, if you're willing to take a risk, because it's a huge risk. Once you send out the invites and you decided to call people and you said they're going to be on board and you started talking about it on social handles, there is no way you can renege. So you have to bring in that kind of money. So when you allow young people to take risks, small and big, I think that's when you trigger off this whole thing of entrepreneurship. And that is such a successfully done event. I mean, one of those really memorable events that has remained with me right through. And because the event belonged to them, there was obviously that much more commitment. There was a sense of responsibility, a sense of ownership, and the event succeeded beautifully. So, what I'm trying to say is that in order to nurture the spirit of entrepreneurship, I think first thing first, we have to be willing to believe in young people. We have to be willing to take risks, and we have to be willing to allow them to experiment. Unless we allow people to do something, they're really never going to figure out what is the way forward. What we normally do, and I must share this term with you. The other day, I was speaking at an event and I spoke about 3 kinds of educators. And the first category of educators, I call them helicopter teachers. Now, that's not a term I have coined at all. When I say helicopter teachers, we as helicopter parents or helicopter teachers, we want to give all the solutions to children. When you want to do that, because you feel that they're going to be comfortable, things will work out the way I want them to work out, we want to do everything for our children. We are not allowing them to tap into their innate potential. All the time we are talking about, allowing people to actualize their potential. Actually, we never allow them. We've never allowed them the opportunity to actualize their potential. And we're always helicopter teachers and helicopter mentors. So when you stop doing that and you allow children, and rather than being helicopter teachers, if you're a mentor, I think you have allowed people to experiment, even if they fail. Even if they fail, you would have taught them, they may not have succeeded. But in any case, you would have taught them some degree of resilience. And you would have taught them a lesson that failure is not the end of the road, it's merely an indicator that you need to change direction. So I think to nurture the spirit of entrepreneurship, just allow people to think out of the box, allow them to experiment, allow them to take a risk, and allow them to just venture forth on their own, support them from the back end, support them emotionally, support them morally, do whatever you can to support them, but please allow people to be and to do what they want to do. And I think that's the spark of entrepreneurship, just kindles into a fire like this. I hope that somewhat answers your question.
Absolutely, ma'am, and it's wonderful to always hear your metaphors and anecdotes from your experience in every webinar that we've attended together. But thank you so much, ma'am. I think that's very well put in terms of what the school ecosystem can do and the kind of mindset that the school ecosystem can have to nurture these young innovators. And that, in fact, brings me to the next question, to Miss Sara. Dr. Bali has covered what the school can do, but let us now talk about what are the essential skills and competencies that students need to develop and to transform into these young innovators that we hope would be the future.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm truly honored to be a part of this panel discussion with other eminent speakers, and thank you so much for the wonderful question. Well, yes, ma'am has covered a whole lot of aspects that needs to be looked at. And when we're talking about the skills and the competency, students really need to develop creative thinking skills, problem solving abilities to become innovators. A few of the essential skills and the competencies that the young students should develop is very, very important. It is we have to encourage imaginative thinking, foster a mind that values originality and exploration. And that's again taking risk, allowing them not become the helicopter teacher. This is a new term I have learned, ma'am. Yes, we have learned about the helicopter parenting, but yes, helicopter teachers also talks about, how protective as teachers we all get and make their work seem comfortable and make our work become easy. It's just that teachers have got into that kind of a mindset. So it's for the teachers also to have an open mindset, allow the children to think critically, teach students to analyze the information and the concepts in a very, very critical manner, promote the ability to evaluate ideas and evidence. When it comes to science or any topic, it is just being taught. I mean, thankfully, we're out of the rote memorization and the different, the old school methods. But yes, there's still a lot of change that is required, where we need to allow children to develop the problem solving skills by presenting the real world challenges. Encourage students to break down the complex issues into manageable components and work with them and work with their ideas, cultivate a very, very strong sense of curiosity and desire to learn in the classroom. They need to be curious. So the teachers need to, have a plan in such a manner. There's a lot of, curiosity that is built within the classroom. And again, very important is teach effective creative and verbal communication to share their ideas and collaborate, because a lot of students we see, yes, they have a thought, but they do not know how exactly to to put it in words or in a written or a verbal format and share and collaborate. Promote active listening and the ability to convey these complex concepts very, very clearly, and instill a growth mindset. Allow them to see failures as learning opportunities, teach students to be more adaptable, more resilient. Children these days, they just look for shortcuts. They just want everything done very, very quickly. So somewhere their personality, these skills also need to be developed gradually. Develop the ability to understand others' perspectives as well, to focus on creating solutions that benefit people, allow them to research, evaluate, use information effectively. A lot of the research-based skills need to be developed within the classroom. Familiarize students with technology and digital tools. There are a whole lot of tools that will make their work simpler. So teachers and the schools need to be equipped with that. And we also need to understand that we need to develop an understanding of complex system and their interconnections. These students to consider the broader impact of their innovation, that involves a lot of time management, organization skills, the importance of learning both success and failures, teach them about financial literacy. So these are the few skills that we have already started in most of the schools, I believe, knowing about the financial concepts, how to deal with money, to understand the economic aspects of the innovation. And these are the long term learning that needs to be inculcated in all the school environment. Instill a sense of ethical responsibility in innovation, considering the social environment and their moral implications. I guess to be a part of the community, what good you're bringing into the community and how it is going to evolve and and involve the rest of them is also very, very important. To build relationships, to connect with mentors, and seek support from the community of innovators. We have started inviting a lot of young startup companies to our school so that the children hear from them, they connect well, they see somebody who's just about 25 or 26, young people coming and sharing their personal experience. So children definitely get really inspired by them, and they get to ask. I mean, it might be silly, but somewhere they're thinking on those lines. So we try and bring in a lot of young people who have started, who are the innovators, could be failed, could be a success. So we're just allowing them to share these kind of stories with our students, and cultivating these concepts with young students become, will help them to become effective innovators who are capable of solving complex problems and making a positive impact on the world. So yes. CBSE is helping us a lot. We have developed with a lot of skill hub programs right now, the skill hubs and the co-curricular activities, the art integration projects. All this gives them a lot of opportunity to work on other areas apart from the so-called core subjects. We are also encouraging a lot of vocational training for our students and giving them ideas as to how this is going to help. So children need to be aware as to what is available and how they can move forward. So I guess these are the skills that we need to take up and ensure that our young minds are ready to explore, ready to take risk, and ready to learn, and they have the growth mindset always. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah ma'am. I think you've given us an excellent overview of the skills that students might also learn and develop in order to become excellent innovators. And you reminded me of when I used to take classes for social entrepreneurship. And every time students would see the face of another student who has done something to solve a problem in the real world, something just
Absolutely.
and they realize that oh wait, my age is not a boundary. It's not something that's stopping me from taking action, and they would also be inspired to take action. So I think it's a wonderful initiative that you're also bringing in young entrepreneurs to set an example. Thank you so much, ma'am. And
Thank
with
you.
that,
Pleasure.
thank you. So with that, we'll move on to the third question to Ms. Archana, ma'am. Um, we've spoken about the kind of environment that schools can create, and we've spoken about the skills that students can learn. But now let's talk about uh, principals and educators, right? What advice would you give school principals, educators, academic coordinators, and teachers who would want to kickstart or improve their efforts to empower young innovators and talk about everything that and implement everything that Dr. Bali and Sarah ma'am have spoken about?
Very good afternoon to each and everyone. And definitely, lots of things are told by Sarah ma'am and Bali ma'am. So I'll continue the topic. My views about this topic is that schools are the most important when it comes to providing the necessary knowledge and skills to the student. But when it comes to giving them a space for opening and exploring the creative side and letting them explore innovation, in this matter, to school play an extremely important role. Children spend most of childhood and middle teenage in their school also. So it is a place where they not only learn about studies but also discover their abilities. So young minds always took up to something which is not monotonous as they seek to learn and discuss new things. And this is where to learn schools foster them to indulge in creativity. Whenever a child come up with a novel idea or some sort of innovation, the schools have to acknowledge them, provide necessary guidance as well as the resources, and most important is to giving them opportunity to do so. This is where they get opened up to startup as they have learned to think out of the box. They have been conditioned in that manner, which leads them to success in the world of business. Schools should launch different activities, as Sarah ma'am told. So many so-called CBSE learning hubs are providing to the schools, and so many new things are providing by the new policy of education, that is 2023, where in students pitch their ideas, discover their creative skills, and many more. It's an ignite and gives them a push towards innovation. It is very important to teach them since here they are young. Schools, when providing the youth with the necessary opportunities and resources, it then becomes easy for the youth to step into the world of startup. So thank you so much. This is all about from my side.
Thank you, Archana. I think
Thank you.
you raised a really good point about the hubs that are being set up by CPSC and how the current policy outlook is also supporting the kind of endeavors that we're
This is
talking
all
about.
depend on skills.
Absolutely, ma'am. It is, as they say today, right, a skill economy. And so, the NEP, the NCF, they do highlight taking entrepreneurship into the core curriculum of the school and taking design thinking into the curriculum of the school. And so, I think one question that educators around India have had for the past 3 years is, how do we find this balance between our traditional curriculum and inculcating and encouraging these new concepts like entrepreneurship, innovation, and creative thinking. So, Dr. Bali, we'll hear from you first. How do you think schools can find this balance?
See, there's no denying the fact that the core function of any school is instilling academic excellence. Goes without saying. But at the same time, we also need to understand now as educators that education is a conduit for skills. Education is not an end by itself. Education is a means to an end. So when I say education is a conduit or education is a means to an end, actually speaking, education has to be used to inculcate the skills that we need to develop in people for success in real life. Because what generally happens is there are people who are extremely qualified, may have gone to the best of colleges, may have gone to the best of institutes, engineering colleges, or management institutes and colleges, and so on and so forth. Not necessary that they're going to succeed in life, because probably they have not developed or cultivated the skills that you need to learn. And sometimes these skills will only happen post education, when they're in the workforce. That's when they pick up the skills. But I think as schools and educators, it is important that we provide best possible opportunities to young people in the schools. So I would say, apart from, we need to understand that they have a certain quantum of work to complete to write that blessed end of the year examination, which is a pen and paper exam. But maybe if some part of the assessment could be WIL, work integrated learning. Now, when I say WIL, I'm a strong believer of WIL, because sometimes those who don't even want to speak up or don't want to go out and actually work are forced to work, because WIL is a component of your assessment. So even if it's a 20 to 30% component of your assessment, I think it goes a long way in empowering the children to learn the skills they need to learn when they're on the job, so to say, right? So one way could be a WIL, which I think is a huge plus. I don't know why is it that we have not been able to bring it into the school system. I'm very hopeful someday somebody will be able to bring it in, at least up to grade 9, up to grade 8. We can happily bring it in some small form, because you can always customize learning up to grade 8 because you're not bound by the board exam, the restrictions of the board examination. So one is work integrated learning. Second, I think giving children the opportunities to go for internships. Now, when you push children to go for internships, because you get them to realize that it looks fantastic on your resume. When you go out to seek admissions in good colleges and good universities, particularly universities overseas, they don't merely look at your transcript. They look at your SOP, statement of purpose, then they look at your profile. So internships look very good on your resumes. So another way you could probably integrate these skills is through internships, where children are exposed to, you know, some kind of vestibule training where you actually go on the ground and see what's happening, become a part of that vestibule training sometimes, and pick up some skills. The third, another very good way could be giving children case studies. In grades 11 and 12 particularly, if you give children case studies, let's say they're studying business management, if they can be given case studies as part of their business and management or their business studies courses or their economics courses, if they're allowed to study these business studies, these case studies, if they're allowed to scrutinize the case studies and derive conclusions, I think some amount of learning will definitely happen. Another great way could be, you insist on some collaborative projects. Because when you get the kids to work with the other children, they're picking up some skills unobtrusively without realizing. They're picking up the skills of interpersonal skills, the ability to work in tandem with other people, and also realizing that other people with their differences can also be right. Okay. So I think a lot of problems are solved there because conflict resolution that we have to resort to later, you won't have to do a lot of conflict resolution because if you've taught people to work with others, then there'll be lesser conflicts. So collaborative working, I think collaborative projects can be a great way of empowering the children. At the same time, throwing a challenge, like I said, this instance that I started with, when you throw children a challenge, it's the problem solving skills are inherent in the challenge. There is no way. People will always try to find, because solutions are always inherent in the problem. So when you give people a problem, they're bound to look for solutions. So problem solving skills will definitely surface. So allowing children, giving them problems to solve in the classrooms and outside the classrooms, giving them projects that look like problems that need to be solved, it's inevitable that the problem solving skills will surface because you will try and cope. So problem solving skills will surface. So I think in schools we can do all of this, giving children responsibilities, giving them responsibilities, asking them to plan and execute. For example, small school functions. For instance, the simplest is the school assembly. Tell the kids that, well, here are the school assemblies you're supposed to plan and lead. So it's a given that they will definitely take it forward very well to prove that they can do well. So it's all about giving children opportunities, small tasks, which are goal oriented, small tasks which are very, very goal oriented. So that way, I think their creativity will surface, their resilience, their sense of responsibility, accountability will also surface. So when people start taking accountability, I think skills will go up by many notches. So, thank
Sure,
you.
ma'am. I think Ms. Disha is having some internet issues. I'd like to continue. I'd like to ask one question, and that goes to all the panelists. Now, we have recently seen that young entrepreneurs make a lot of money. Some of them have got funding as well, have been to famous shows also. So, how do you think is how school is now becoming important, how the game has changed very quickly? Because the incubators and all of these things, we were talking, as a education media company, we used to talk with higher education institutions. But now, since we have seen that the government is so supportive of the startups, we have seen, budding entrepreneurs building multi-billion dollar companies, when they're not even, they have crossed their 12th examinations. What is the, what has the school come under pressure now that they have to, the traditional education is there, but this also, because the aspiration of the students has become skyrocketed now, and how the school is, helping them to build on their dreams. What, according to you, should be, the correct path for the students as well? All of you, I would like to ask Neeta ma'am, to start off with, and then everybody should follow on the same question, if that's okay.
Okay, Sandeep, here is an instance I want to share, and this is a very interesting one. There is this young gentleman called Shriyan Daga. I'm sure a lot of people will have heard of Shriyan. So Shriyan started this little series, which was some podcast with educators or what have you. And it just so happened that he started the first podcast was with me. So he was talking with me. In fact, that's a question he raised. He said, "Ma'am, given a choice between, a transcript that looks very good or a balance sheet that looks very good, what would you prefer? What should I have? A better balance sheet or a better transcript?" I said, "I am for a better balance sheet." So, because and I know it sounds funny, and he was also very amused. So I said, "I'm just being very candid. The reason is this:
Correct, ma'am.
at the end of the day,
Especially
I
when
think
you said, I'm sorry, ma'am. Especially when you said that the school's job is to make sure that academic excellence has to be
no,
ensured.
no. I mean, what
So
I'm trying, I'm
now,
not undermining. I am not undermining the importance of a good transcript. I'm not doing that at all. But now, let's say, at the end of the day, I mean, that's my view and could be absolutely subjective. For me, as I said, education is a conduit for skills. So if I were to choose between a good balance sheet and a good transcript, of course, I'd want the good transcript also, but I'd like an equally good, even better balance sheet. Where is the harm? If he has decided, we have to learn to delink degrees from jobs and occupations, because at the end of the day, a lot of people who may not have great degrees, I'm sure there's so many school dropouts, they've succeeded much more than a lot of us. So, at the end of the day, it's about doing well in life and finding your, I would say, actualizing your vision or your mission in life and self actualization and succeeding. And success is a very relative term. So, what success for me is not necessarily success for you. For me, a great transcript is success, but for you, maybe a good balance sheet is success, right? And a lot of us use our transcripts to get to that balance sheet. So where is the harm? Right? So I'm a great one for this. I think we really need to delink jobs from degrees or degrees from jobs. I think the value proposition that people bring is the attitude, the skill, the desire to succeed, and also the ability to take risks. I think that's what makes people successful. That's why you have entrepreneurs, great entrepreneurs, right?
what
So
about you, ma'am?
anyone else?
Sarah, ma'am, we would like to have your
Well,
view. That,
yeah, absolutely.
I'll rephrase the question. I'm sure in each and every school there are, I think, a couple of students who are doing well for themselves financially as well. Either they have a YouTube channel, or they're trying to do something out of the blue to make sure that they are doing something very well financially. That is there in every school, every good school these days. How is the school, helping them to, uh, you know, to make sure that they realize their dreams? And after that, I'll let Disha ma'am to please take over the show, because that's her job. Please, ma'am. Sarah ma'am.
Yes, I'm sure everybody will agree. With school, we have a heterogeneous crowd where some are totally into professionals, some want to do something, some are a little lost. So as a school, because we are at the foundation level, whether it's at the middle school or the high school, first children need to understand, and they need to get the right exposure of what are the career options they have, and understand what is the kind of skills they are good at. So a proper analysis of their skills and how it fits into the job requirement, what exactly is their goal, what do they want in life, because anybody you ask, they just want to make money. How are they going to make money? I mean, are you taking up a right ethical responsibility of making money? Are you getting the right kind of a job that will be sustainable? Are you going to be happy with what you're doing, or is just money? So students at this age, because a lot of young people are making a lot of money, they are getting into, so but it will not suit everybody. I mean, no one size fits all. So we need to give them that kind of a 360-degree exposure of what is available in the market, what is doing well. Yes, once upon a time it was computers, then it became coding, now it is AI. So it is constantly changing. So children need to be updated about this change that is coming in. You cannot be stuck to coding when AI is doing so wonderfully now. You cannot be stuck to something else. So they need to have that understanding, and we need to keep updating them and align with their skills, their personality, and their interest. It is just not the money per se. So, and we have to give them the basic financial concept of understanding how to deal with their finances. How much of a risk taker can you be? You can't just put in everything in a crypto or whatever. Children these days, everybody wants to make quick money, whether in the form of earning or investments or whatever. But how much of risk is allowed? I mean, we talk about risk takers, but how much is allowed? So that kind of a knowledge and that kind of an understanding, I think we educators, the community, the parents, everybody needs to collaborate together to come into a understanding as to what the children need to know. They are all aware of something that happens very quickly to them, but what about their career? I mean, how long is it going to last? How many startups have shut down? How many were able to go back? There was a rebound, or how many went downwards? They need to understand the failure stories also, so they need to be ready enough to take that risk. They need to be ready enough to take up that failure and rebounds and come back. So I guess children need to be equipped with the right understanding and knowledge as to what is available, how much they can get in, and what are the skills required, and who fits into what. Everybody cannot be a doctor or an entrepreneur or whatever. So understanding their skills, their strengths, and looking at the job that will interest them and which is sustainable is what the children need to look at. Thank you.
Absolutely, ma'am. So totally agree, and I believe this is the right point in time where Disha ma'am should come into the picture and tell her how she is actually helping out schools, and how she is basically taking their entrepreneurship programs to the schools and helping out the students. And also, to take the session away further from here, I would invite Disha ma'am once again to be on
Sure.
the bike.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much. Thank you, Sandeep. And I sincerely apologize. Just unpredictable power cuts, and we can't do much.
We are all
But
bound by technology, but simplicity of a power and an internet, we all understand we can get handcuffed because of that. Please.
right. So, actually, from what I could hear of what Neeta ma'am said and what Sarah ma'am said, I think a common thread that I see is this definition of success. Every generation defines success. At one point in time, being an engineer, being a doctor, and being a lawyer was considered being successful. And today, I think educators are trying to change that. Students certainly do want to change in that kind of thought. But let's talk about the third stakeholder, right, which is parents. So, how do we sort of steer the parental mindset towards a more conducive definition of success, which is suited to every student out there? And it's not a one size fits all, as Sarah ma'am mentioned. Neeta ma'am, we can start with you.
So you want to ask about how do we orient the parents, right? Is that the question? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. See, To begin with, let me tell you that already a shift in mindset is happening. A lot of these young people are trying out different enterprises because parents are receptive. Not merely are parents receptive. See, it's parents are not interested in their earning money. I think parents also now realize, a lot of young parents realize that learning has to now go beyond textbooks. Schools realize, parents realize that learning has to go beyond the textbooks. So parents are open to opportunities where their children may pick up the requisite skills by embarking on a small enterprise. In fact, I'm pleasantly surprised. Not even recently. I would say going back to about 3, 4, 5 years almost. I've had parents as a school head. I often had parents who came back and said, "Look, my child has written a book, and he wants to monetize it. He's selling it on Amazon." And this is a good 4.5, 5 years ago, because my child has written. This is for an IB school when I was heading an IB school. So my child has written a book as part of CAS Creativity, Activity and Service. He wants to monetize it. The book is meant for students studying in government schools. They don't have good books to go to. It's written in very simple English, has already been translated into Hindi, is ready to be launched in the market. We are launching it on Amazon, and we are going to sell this book. However, that was another matter, that the money that the boy receives, he's going to use it for a philanthropic purpose. But the fact of the matter is that children had already started thinking with the encouragement of parents. Parents were already pushing them. Then I came across a student, and this is when you go into layers and start talking with children and parents. I discovered that a student was making a lot of music, electronic music online, and selling his music, and was making, as a music producer, so to say, was making money out of that, was monetizing that. So children are already, it's not a recent phenomena. Children have already been doing things with the support of their parents. And parents don't necessarily, are not driven by the fact that children should make money. Well, we had another instance, I must share this, that we had, somebody, a young student called the Google Boy of India, who had given a scholarship. Now, the Google Boy of India was giving talks and charging, right? And this is a school student. So here it's not so much about, parents are not driven by the fact that they want the children to make money. They're driven by the fact that children need to have the little spot of glory, uh, a sense of satisfaction and self-actualization, exposure to deal with the world and with people, business acumen. Because if you start building this business acumen at a young age, and I think it's very important. For some communities, it just comes very naturally because the parents are in business, right? But for a lot of us, it may not come naturally because parents have always worked for somebody else. So if you have to build this business acumen, I think a good way to do that is when parents start to give opportunities to children and are willing to take risks. And also the fact that they realize that when you embark on something like this, it's inevitable that there will be pressure on your child, because the child will be trying to juggle the academic work and this, their business interests, so to say. So there will be a lot of juggling that will happen, and it's bound to create some degree of stress. So how is it you're going to handle your child to ensure that the child doesn't experience this kind of stress? But let me tell you, parents have evolved. Huh? They come a long way. They're much smarter than school. They have many more business ideas than schools do. I mean, schools are able to give them lesser business ideas.
That's actually really good to hear. And Miss Sarah, has your experience also been similar, or has it been very different in terms of interacting with the parents and bringing in a sort of new age of education?
No, very rightly, as ma'am said, parents are aware. They want their children to get the maximum exposure, get a whole lot of opportunities, and the school is definitely supporting children and parent. And we have career counseling where parents are invited and students are a part of it, planning to start off with the psychometric analysis in understanding the strengths of children and keeping the parents informed. Sometimes just channelizing the whole thing is what it takes, for a parent also, and for a student, how to move on with the idea. They have an idea. How do we execute it? After execution, how do we put it up in front of others? So that kind of channelizing the idea, channelizing their strengths, their talent is what the parents sometimes needs guidance, and where the school absolutely supports in giving that kind of a guidance through professional talk, through conferences, through sharing on a common platform where the students are a part of it. Students get to speak about what they want to become and how they are looking at their careers and everything. So yes, parents have a complete change, but yes, we have some of them who are still the old school type where they want everything to be done at school itself, which becomes very, very difficult. And they expect the school to take up all kinds of skill programs, all kind of the academics and everything. So that is where we need to sometime intervene, and provide that kind of a support whenever it's required.
Agreed, ma'am. I think that's wonderfully well said. That we do have both these sets of parents, and as other stakeholders in this in the education ecosystem, we also come across a lot of parents who do believe that it's maybe okay, maybe promoting business acumen is not as necessary, but then once you show them the outcome of your student is your child is going to go from just not having an idea to taking that idea to market and progress that far ahead, and seeing that progress is when they realize that we have true change here, and that is what we intend to do. We intend to instill the financial acumen and entrepreneurial mindset among students across the globe. We're working in 30 plus countries now and across schools in India, and we've seen tremendous potential from students and their ideas, and that is the mission that we want to take forward along with all our educators here today. So just a big heartfelt thank you for joining us today and for staying on. Thank you, Archana ma'am, for rejoining us again. I suppose we both had the same problem today, but thank you for coming back in again.
Thank you
And
so much. Thank you, ma'am. And thank you, Sandeep sir.
yeah, so it's really been wonderful interacting with you all, Neeta ma'am, Sarah ma'am, and Archana ma'am. Thank you, Sandeep, as well for hosting the webinar, and we hope to see you all very, very soon to have much more insightful and deeper conversations on the subject. So thank you. Over to Sandeep now.
Thank you so much, Miss Disha, for this amazing session. I believe today is the last day before the school breaks for the Dashera vacations as well, and that's why some of the South Indian schools had a problem in joining in. They were called in the last minute meetings of the board before they push off for the Dashera vacations. Having said that, this was such an amazing and important topic to be discussed, where we are talking about entrepreneurship. We've seen you know we have seen students, we have seen young chaps, as correctly said by Sarah ma'am, running behind money, running behind quick success, for the matter of fact, running behind shortcuts, getting influenced by a few things that somebody else is doing something, so this should also fit me on the same thing. The students have made mistakes. Some of them has lost a lot of effort, money on doing these things. So we believe that it's time that now, the school leaves the 360-degree approach and approaches the 720-degree approach, because there is one education segment that is there, and the parallel education system where the life skills is of the students is very important. That has to be inculcated, and it has to be done by the schools. I'm a strong and a firm believer of that. Uh, Having said that, this was such an amazing session. Neeta ma'am, thank you so much. You've always, you're a stellar, of the education. You're holding the flag of education system right in your hands and moving forward. Thank you for joining us, Sarah ma'am. It's a pleasure to have you. Archana ma'am, thank you so much for joining us. Disha ma'am, thank you so much, and we'll hope we'll join. The bright champs way of moving forward will be the next big thing that will be moving forward in the school education system as well. Thank you so much for
Surely,
this
sir.
amazing session. With this, we end the first
Thank you.
episode of the Talking Education series. We have had more than 75 odd registrations for this amazing session. We'll share the report of all of these talks with everybody, all the registered participants, as soon as we complete this uh, you know, webinar series soon. Thank you so much to all you wonderful viewers, to all the wonderful speakers. We'll see you very soon with the second episode of Talking Education, the fourth series of Talking Education very soon. Thank you so much. Have a great one. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.